Right, okay, all good? Right, we're going to start the lesson now. So, we are going to talk about opening leads, and when we've talked about opening leads so far, we've talked about really two distinct situations, right? When I'm talking about leading long suits, right? And we're talking, the two distinct situations is one where you have an honour sequence, i.e. you're leading honours, kings, queens, jacks, blah, blah, blah. And the other one where you have honours, but not a sequence, in which case you're leading low cards, essentially. Right, so does everybody remember the two kind of main rules we went for in order to say which cards we're going to lead? If we have an honour sequence,
Top of the sequence.
Top of a sequence, and if we have a broken sequence of honours, no sequence, essentially, broken, fourth down fourth down. So those are the two conventions which are most widely played and are probably the best as well. But you need to know when to take them, how to use them, when to deviate from them, etc., etc., which is essentially what this lesson is going to entail. Sort of a bit more of an advanced analysis into why we do what we do in terms of opening leads of honours particularly against no trump contracts, which is the critical thing here. Right, so do we know, what did we say that these leads meant? We had a nice little mnemonic to help us remember what we were asking for partner when we led these two cards. Ace for attitude, king for count. Perfect, right. Ace for attitude, king for count. And so when we led the ace, and partner's seen we led the ace, he knows we're asking for attitude. And when we ask for attitude, how does partner respond? I'll give you an example. If he's got 9, 5, 2, what card would he play? 9, why?
High for hate.
High for hate, exactly. If he's got king, 8, 3, what card would he play? The 3, low for like, perfect. So that's the idea. Low for like, high for hate is attitude. Take same situations. You've led the king for count. You've got 9, 5, 2. Which card is partner going to play from that holding? You led the king for count.
Why?
The 2, perfect. Right. So does everyone remember? Count is low for odd, high for even, and the easier way to remember that is hello. High, even, low, odd. Right? So if partner leads the king and we've got an odd number of cards, we're going to play the lowest one. If we've got an even number of cards, we're going to play the highest one we can afford. So essentially something more like a 7, 8, or 9. But if our suit happens to be 5, 4, 3, 2, well, we'll guess we're going to have to play the 5. We do the best we can, essentially. Right, so that was a generalization that we took at the beginning of, about halfway through the beginner's lessons. And this is the kind of thing I want to take one step further, because a lot of people will be like, yeah, obviously ace for attitude, king for count, and you're like, great. But then they're like, well, I don't know whether I want attitude or count. I mean, how do I know? I mean, it's particularly since you don't know what the dummy is yet. So how on earth are you meant to know whether to give attitude or whether to give count in certain situations? So, in order to kind of broaden this knowledge, I'm going to take these leads a little bit further, and I'm going to give you some example holdings about what to lead from and what we expect to happen. So just to kick straight off, we're gonna give a small correction to this king lead, right? This king lead is no longer against no trumps, just going to ask for count. We're going to call it count/unblock. Right, now, unblocking is, I suppose, quite a routine concept, but you may not have heard of the word. You've definitely seen the play before. I remember once when I was playing with Ward, we had an unblocking play, and we actually got confused on the play as well, didn't we? Unfortunately. But in essence, what was the idea of the unblock? What was the point of, unblocking essentially meaning playing a higher card, throwing away high cards underneath your partner's honours. Why would you do that?
To maintain your get into the hand you want to.
Yes, exactly. Maintain communications is perfect, right? So if you have a very simple sequence, like if partner has something very strong like this, right, and you have, I suppose this one doesn't really matter. Let's see, something like this, right? If partner leads the king for unblock, right, here we can actually throw the queen underneath the king, right? And partner's sequence of honours is strong enough. We're essentially getting it out of his way. And that's the kind of idea. It really simplifies the defence for partner, and in certain points it's absolutely critical, particularly from sequences that start with the king-queen, where partner's missing the jack. So, in these kind of sequences, right, we lead the king to ask partner to unblock, right? And the idea is, if we see 2 small on the dummy, right, or 3 small on the dummy, we are desperate to know where the jack is, because in these cases, if declarer has the jack, we're actually at risk of giving away extra tricks, because a very common play for a declarer in this situation is when we lead the king from this holding, and this is the layout of the suit, lead the king, declarer will duck, he'll play low on the first trick, right, and let our king hold. And then with the hope that we'll think, great, you know, our king held, no one took the ace, it's brilliant. And when we continue to suit, if you look in this holding, if we continue to suit, we actually give declarer 2 tricks in the suit, whereas there's no other way we can give declarer 2 tricks in this suit. If partner leads them through, we're leading through the jack, we're finessing his jack. If declarer plays them himself, our cards are sitting over him. If he plays the jack, we'll play the queen whenever it happens. But if we lead the suit ourselves, then we're actually giving him an extra trick. Does everybody see how we give him an extra trick? So we've got the king, queen, 10-9. Declarer is only entitled to 1 trick in the suit, the ace, because if he plays it himself, as soon as he plays the jack, we're going to beat it. But if we help him out by leading from this side of the table, he can make 2 tricks in the suit. And this play is called a bath coup, but the idea is simple. Declarer ducks in the hope that you then underlead your honours, and if you underlead your queen, he'll score the jack as well and have an extra trick. Right, so the idea here, right, is that if you lead the king for unblock, well, you've solved the problem, because if partner has the jack, he'll play it. So if by failure to play the jack, you know exactly where the jack is and you know what's going on. That's the idea. If partner doesn't play the jack, we know, right, switch suit, because if we lead this, we're giving declarer another trick. Everybody see that? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, in order to kind of summarize this, that's the idea of unblock, right? So we lead it. The king for counter unblock. The king says, partner, if you've got an honor in the suit, unblock. Just play your honor, and it promises a very strong holding, right? That's the idea. So when we lead the king, partner's supposed to unblock an honor whenever he's got it. When he doesn't unblock an honor, we know he doesn't have an honor, right? That's the whole point of this thing. And so if we find out he doesn't have an honor, we know when we need to switch, etc., etc. It's the same principle with this situation. If declarer has queen to 3 here, and partner 3 small, when we lead the king and ask for unblock, if partner doesn't play the queen, we don't want to touch the suit again. Because if we lead the suit from this side of the table again, declarer is going to get a trick with the queen. However, if we put partner in with a different suit, he can play 1 through declarer, we'll finesse him, and then we'll take all the tricks in the suit. Do you see that? Everybody see? So you have 5 tricks in this suit, so long as partner leads them. But if you lead them yourself, you give declarer a stop with the queen. That's the idea. Right, any questions up to here as to what unblock is all about? Right, so that is the critical thing of unblock, and that's what we base our leads around. So essentially, just as before, we're going to have ace for attitude, but we're going to have king for count, but with the added idea that this is count or unblock. So if we have an honor, we unblock it. If we don't have an honor, we give count. Why do we give count? Well, our attitude's obvious. I mean, if we didn't unblock an honor, we don't have a high card, so we're just going to give count. And that's going to help partner in terms of we're figuring out some situations. Right, so if I give a couple of examples. So if partner leads the king and we hold jack 3 times, right? We're going to play the jack, right? And that will help partner out. So if you imagine the problem from partner's point of view, say he leads the king and we don't have the jack, say we have 3 small, we're going to give him count. So in this situation, say we've got the 9, 8, 2, partner leads the king, which card are we going to play? gives partner count in the suit. Right. In this position, declarer wins the ace. Right. Partner knows we don't have the jack. Declarer is not going to throw the jack underneath here because that would just be silly. You play the ace, and then when, say, partner gets back in with a side to ace, what is he going to know to do? What was the whole point of giving him count now? What does he know is going to happen?
Drop the jack.
He can drop the jack. We gave him count, we showed him 3. He can see 3 in the dummy, 5 in his hand. He knows declarer started with coup. So partner confidently lays down the queen, and declarer's jack falls underneath it, and he cashes the suit. Right? Yes?
What should I do if I have an ace?
If you have the ace in this hand,
Like, yeah.
well, it depends on the precise situation. What I'm going to go through now is I'm going to go through the holdings at which you lead the king from, and then once from the holdings you can work out very easily whether the ace is a risk, it would cost the trick or not cost the trick in most holdings. Right, so the holdings that you're going to lead the king from essentially are ones where you have either 5 cards and 3 top honours, right? So a sequence like that, a sequence like that, because in these sequences it's unsafe for partner to unblock from queen to 3 and from jack to 3, because provided there's not a singleton on the dummy, we can be sure that declarer doesn't have 4 cards in the suit. It's quite a long bit of reasoning, but if you imagine, if you give partner queen to 3 or jack to 3 in these suits, unless there's 1 card or fewer on the dummy, declarer can't have 4 of the suit. In which case, we're fine to just have a 3-card sequence as opposed to having to have a 4-card sequence. Conversely, if we do only have 4 cards, we do need another big one, the 10, queen, jack, king, queen, 10, 9, and the idea being that we need that 4th card, because if 2 come down in the dummy and partner unblocks, unless we've got that card, we've actually cost the trick, because partner's thrown away a high card, whereas declarer may have a long suit. Take for example, if you led the king from king, queen, 10, 2, and partner has jack to 3, declarer having ace, 9, 8, 7, and so it's just too small on the dummy. If you lead the king from this holding and partner throws the jack underneath it, in fact, now if you go through that, you can see the queen 10 is not strong enough to knock out declarer's 9, 8, 7. Right, can you see that? And in which case declarer will get another trick, and the suit partner's jack throwing underneath actually costs the trick. So we're going to make sure that we have a strong sequence in order to ask partner to do this play. That's the whole point of it. So when we have 3 honours and a 5-card suit, or 4 honours and a 4-card suit is the strength we need. Everybody understand why that's the strength? Right, awesome. And I guess in all other circumstances, we're going to be leading our ace for attitude if we have it, or we're going to be leading our queen for attitude if we have it. That's another thing that is unique to no trumps, is that we don't necessarily need to lead the top of the sequence, because partner, it's not so critical partner knows what the top of our sequence is, because he's not going to be covering it as often. So, for example, if we lead the queen against a suit contract and partner holds the ace, he might be worried his ace is going away. For example, the declarer might have a singleton king, in which case he'll probably play the ace, right? And this is kind of clashing our honours is not a good idea. But in no trumps, there's just never going to be a case where he wants to play the ace. If he plays the ace, he's essentially wasting the firepower of your queen, essentially, which is knocking out high cards from the declarer. So we're not, when we're leading against no trumps, we're not really actually worried about misleading partner so much. We're not really misleading him because of our agreement that we can lead the queen from the king. But we're not so worried about partner getting it wrong, because partner will play low most of the time and will still utilise the full firepower of our honours. For example, if we did lead the queen and partner played low and declarer played low, for example, we may be able to deduce that partner has the ace in some circumstances, in which case that's great, because we won't be able to just take tricks in the suit without having to worry about it. Right, okay, let me go through some examples. Does anyone have the rubber? There's a tea towel around the corner. There's no rubbers here. Could you go around the corner and get the tea towel, please? Right, awesome. So, let's just go through some sequences and I'll see what we think we're going to lead. Right, okay, let's just go through random.
Is this one, Jono?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Right, okay, so this is just a quick example. Let's look at the time. What's the time? Okay, perfect. I mean, I chose a small topic so we could actually make sure we go in depth, because I think this is actually going to be quite a good way of improving, you know, not only leading against no chance, but thinking about why we're doing what we're doing against no chance. Right, so from these examples, right, who wants to have a go at the first one? What card are we leading from the first one? This one was just on the board, so please don't be shy. Go for it.
The king.
The king. Why are we leading the king? What's the criteria it needs?
3 honors and a 5 card.
3 honors and a 5 card suit. Perfect. Right. This one. What card are we leaving? Ace. The ace. What criteria doesn't it meet? We don't have a 5 card suit. We only have 3 honors. Right. Perfect. This one. What card are we leading? The king. Perfect. This one.
The queen.
The queen. Because we don't want punch to unblock the 10. That 10 might be an important card. This one, what card are we leading? The king. Pawn will unblock the 10 if he's got it. Right, perfect. Lead the king if you've got the queen, jack, or 10, unblock. Simple? Makes sense. Right, so let's look at some examples of when this might actually help. So, right. Pawn leads the king. We're going to go through this. Pawn leads the king, and we're going to put different dummies down, different cards in your hand. Right, pawn leads the king. Dummy has 3 small. Right. We have 10, 5, 2. Right. Which card are we going to play? The 10. We're going to unblock to say we have that honor in spade, in whatever the suit is. Sorry. Right. Now say dummy has a singleton. Pawn leads the king. Right. What card are we going to play? It's maybe a bit of a jump, but just think about it. The 2, right? So, what message are we intending to convey with the 2? Firstly, is that count or is that attitude? And why did we? Sorry, that's secondly. Firstly, why didn't we play the 10?
Declarer might be long.
Declarer may have
Long.
4 cards in the suit, and if Declarer has 4 cards in the suit, then our 10 is going to be critical in terms of making sure that we knock him all out. So partner led the king. He had king, queen, jack, X, and Declarer had ace, 9, 8, 7. Partner led the king. If you missing a card,
Yes.
from here. Yes, because otherwise partner wouldn't have led the king from that holding. Partner led the king. We bummed up the 10. We give him Declarer 2 tricks in the suit. He's only got. It's a very simple way of getting the kind of number of tricks in the suit right very quickly. If you look, Declarer's got 4 cards, we've got 4 honours in a row. So that means on every single trick, if we play one of those honours, then we're going to just bash out the suit. We're only going to lose the ace. This is a very kind of quick way of sorting it out. If we instead throw the 10 underneath, we only have 3 top honours, Declarer's going to come to another trick. Right? So, we've established we're not going to throw the 10, right? But what exactly did our 2 mean? Right. So, did you guys play the 2 intending to convey partner count? Is that what your idea is? King for unblock or count? And we're trying to give partner count? What signal do you think might be more useful to partner?
Attitude.
Why attitude?
Because want to know whether he has 10.
Yes, exactly. You want to give partner attitude so partner knows on the next round whether he can safely underlead or not. Right. So the idea is that on these kind of hands, if you give positive attitude, then when partner wins the king, he sees the singleton in the dummy, so he knows partner's not going to unblock here because there's a risk. Right. Partner, he's got to pay attention to the dummy. He's like, partner knows there's a risk here, so he's not going to give me count. He's not going to unblock. What signal do I want? I want attitude, because I need to know whether I can lead a small card next. Right? Partner plays the 2, giving positive attitude. Now when Declarer ducks, trying to settle communications, if you remember the ducking plays we went through. So Declarer will typically duck in this position. Now partner continues with a small one to our 10. And now we've managed to navigate. deck. Did everybody kind of see that? Essentially, we looked at the king and we were like, right, unblock, right? But then we saw the dummy, and we altered our signal because of the risk of having declarer having 4 cards, right? This is kind of it's the idea behind this is contextualizing signals, right? And it's a little bit more of an advanced concept, but in fact, if you can kind of see, it makes your signaling extremely precise, because it means that when you can afford to waste high cards and you throw them away, and the defense becomes easier for partner, so you'll always be able to tell, oh, partner's throwing away the honor I was worried about, let's just keep running the suit. But when the lie of the cards isn't as such that we can afford such a luxury to simplify things, we then change our methods in order to provide the maximally efficient signal, the one that's most useful to partner. Right, so everybody clear with that, why we changed the signal? Right, perfect, let's go through another example. Right, partner leads the king. And we have Jack 5-2. Dummy comes down with the ace, ace 9 XX. Right. So partner leads the king for unblock. What card are we going to play?
What does the dummy play first?
Anybody have any logic they might be thinking through? What was the idea behind what we just went through when the dummy came down with a singleton? What were we worried about?
What dummy has now?
Sorry?
What dummy has now?
So yes. So yes, exactly. But what was the worry in that situation? Why is that worry?
Why lose an extra trick?
Because we lose an extra trick. We can't afford to unblock because partner's only promised 3 honors in the suit, and declarer's got 4 rounds. So if we've got the missing honor, the 4th honor, and we waste it, then that means we only have 3 honors, but there are 4 rounds of the suit we need to play to. Right? So we can't afford to waste it. So what card are we going to play in this position?
2.
And what does it mean? Does that count? Attitude, right? It's attitude. Perfect. And that way, partner had a king queen 10 to 5, and there was the singleton 8 over here, so that we couldn't do anything. Partner will underlead to the jack on the next round, and we will successfully navigate this problem, right? Right, so, what time is it now? I've got one more thing I can go through, if we want, which is a little bit more advanced. It's to do with ace, or low card leads, in fact, and ace leads. Right. So, are we all clear that when partner leads the ace, he's showing a weaker suit than if he leads the king, right? The king is essentially power. When partner leads the king, he says, I have 3 honors in this suit and a 5-card suit. That's his most likely holding, because 4 honors in a suit and a 4-card suit is slightly rare. But he can lead it with that as well. So does everybody understand, when partner leads the king, he's saying, I've got a powerful suit, right? And conversely, the ace or queen says, I've got a weaker suit, right? So, I've just lost my train of thought. When we lead the ace and queen, I was just going to remind is that we're going to give attitude because we can't afford to waste honors, and the fact that partner has said he's got a weaker suit means that we want to give attitude, right? We want him to tell him, oh, I like that suit too. You only have king queen 9 to 5, king queen 9 to 5. Partner might lead the king. I want to tell you that we have jack to 3, so I'm going to play the 2 in order to encourage continuation and let you underlead to my jack. Right, that's the idea. When partner's got a weaker suit, we want to give him attitude. Right, perfect. So, in fact, I know what I'm going to do now. So, what other things do we want to contextualize our leads based on when we see the dummy? So, for example, partner leads the ace. Right, and we have jack to 3. Right, dummy comes down, the queen and 2 small. Right, Jack, 8, 2. We always have the 2, so we can give the clear signal, and a high one, so we can also give the clear signal if that's what we want. Right, so partner leads the ace. Queen to 3 comes down on the dummy. Right, what kind of holding do we think partner has?
King.
You think he has the king? Yeah, that's right. You wouldn't lead the ace without the king.
Ace king XX.
Ace king XX, ace king 10x. 10x is probably slightly more likely. From ace king XX, he's more likely to lead a low card, I think, just because there's less to be gained from bashing out high honours, because you can't just, there's no chance of you just running the suit because you don't have any intermediate cards. This way, if there's a single, if partner has the jack and there's a doubleton queen, we can just cash out the suit very quickly. So there's slightly more advantage leading a high card rather than a low card. But yes, that kind of sequence. We're thinking ace king with the 10 probably to 4 cards, or ace king without the 10 to 5 cards. Ace king with the jack to only 4 cards. Those kind of sequences. Partner's leading the ace, and he's saying, look, I've got a weak sequence here. Right. Dummy comes down with queen to 3. Right. What is our? Do we like this suit or do we not like this suit? What do you think? Jack to 3.
I think we should throw low.
Okay, you think you should play low, and are you telling partner that you got the jack? Is that what you're trying to do?
Because
Yeah, reasonable.
that's the maximum you can have.
Well, so here you go. That is the maximum you can have, but actually, if you think about it this way, does partner care? I mean, you've got the jack. So what? Is that card at all useful? If the Clara had the jack, would it really make a difference? Say we had the 9, and the Clara has jack 3. How many stops does the Clara have in the suit? Partner leads the ace. How many stops does the Clara have in the suit? 1. Because partner's going to lead the ace. Then, best play, he's going to play a low card. The Clara wins the queen or the jack, whichever one he wants. Then on the next round, partner will lead the king. That's the 3rd round. The Clara's got 3-3. His honours will just, whatever honor he has left will fall under the king, and partner will cash the last card. Everybody see that? So, that's exactly the same when we have jack to 3. The exact same thing's going to happen. Partner doesn't care. We've got the jack. He's going to play a low card. Clara will take the queen. And then on the next round, even if we kept the jack, partner's going to have to crush it with the king in order to maintain communication. If you let the jack held, for example, if we didn't throw the jack away, which you wouldn't, but you would try maybe on the 2nd round, not on the 1st round. If partner leads the ace here, you can see that if he then plays low, on the 3rd round, say if we lead the jack, we got in with an honour. If partner doesn't overtake with the king, we've trapped ourselves in the wrong hand, right? So the jack really isn't helping, and we're going to have to crush it anyway if we do happen to have it, right? So, bearing that in mind, right, the question is, does partner therefore know our attitude already about the suit when he sees queen 3 and dummy and he's led the ace? Does he know our attitude already? He does. He knows we don't like the suit. Because no possible holding can improve the suit. There's no honour card that we can have that will help partner out. There's just none. So, in these situations, when we see queen to 3 come down on the dummy, right, and partner leads the ace, what signal is going to be most helpful to partner? Count. Right. Perfect. So we're going to play the 2 to show an even number. Right. Imagine this was the situation, and we had an odd number. Right. Now we give count, as before, because we have the queen. But in this situation, what's partner going to do after we show him an even number? Say he knows it's 2. The even number is 2. That will depend on the bidding and things like that, but most of the time partner will deduce. If he leads the ace and we show him 2 cards, what will partner do? Is he going to play a low card? No, he's going to switch because this suit is dead. If he leads the suit again, he's just going to help the Clara out. So, by giving him count, we've conveyed the most important information to him, right? That information he needs to know, and he can make the right decision. Right. Perfect. Right. If we did have jack to 3 though, and we played the low card, or in fact 9 to 3, we're going to play the low card, and then partner will continue the suit because he can set up another winner. His 4th one will be long. Everybody see that? Right, perfect. So I'm just going to summarise, and then we can head over to the room. Right, so in summary, finally Dani has doubleton or tripleton, you should always unblock your honor. And that's just to help partner out to make sure that he knows it's safe to continue the suit, and you know that you can afford to do so. Right. If partner's led the king and there is danger that that either declarer or dummy has a 4-card suit and that the 4th round might be important, we give attitude, right? And that way we can help partner underlead his honor sequence when it's right to do so. One point about that, if partner leads the king and we don't have an honor, we give count. Does everybody understand why that's useful? The idea being that it's a kind of almost a 2-in-1. We're giving count because attitude can't be relevant because by not playing an honor, we've already conveyed our attitude. We've already denied an honor by not playing it because partner has said, look, play your honor, I'm so strong. We didn't play it, so we must have denied one. That's on the king. So the king is unblock or count, but danger. When there's 4 cards in the dummy or a singleton, we're going to give attitude. It's quite complicated, but actually, when you think through the processes, it's really simple to see why we're doing it. It's literally, you've got 4 top cards, can you make 4 top tricks, essentially? That's the kind of essence. When partner leads the ace, however, we're giving attitude, or the queen, in fact, partner leads ace or queen, we're giving attitude, except if we see the card in the dummy, if we see a big card in the dummy that essentially conveys to partner already what our attitude is for the suit, he doesn't need to know it, so don't tell him again. You then, in this case, tell him your count, because that's going to be the information that's most useful to him. If he leads the queen from king, queen, 10 low, for example, and jack to 3 come down in the dummy, so he's led the queen here, and you see the jack, right? Usually partner knows my attitude. I'm going to give him a count signal. If you have 2 small here, you can tell partner not to lead the suit by showing a doubleton, and if you've got 3 small here, partner will know to continue the suit. With the jack, I guess. The partner will know that if he gets you in, he can win the suit, essentially, if you show him a tripleton. Right, so, any questions? We're going to wrap up there. Oh, sorry, go on, yeah, quick.
So what if partner lead the king and you have ace X?
If you have ace X, you're screwed, you have to play the ace. And if you play low, you block the suit. You don't really have a choice then. Any other questions? If you've got, that's an important thing. All the cards here that I've said unblock from are from honor to 3. If you've got honor 1, you've just got to realise that you're screwed anyway because you can't play low and you can't play the honor necessarily. I mean, hopefully you can play the honor. I mean, there are cases where it's fine to play the honor. So you always end up playing the honor. But you got to realise that no matter what you do, you're in a tricky spot because even if you play low and then partner underleads, you can't lead one back because you only had started with 2, so you're in a bit of a tricky spot there. That one you're restricted in choices. Was there another question over here? No? Okay, perfect. They really want me to wrap up, so I'm going to wrap up there. Thanks, guys. Hope you learned something.